Okay, we are now live. Hi, welcome to the Brown Girl Book Club for this month. And we have our special guest. Do you want to introduce yourself and maybe like some books you read, your modeling?
Okay.
Just tell us about yourself. Go for it.
Cool. My name is Tahira, but I go by Cecilia Tahiri kind of everywhere on the internet. I love like YA and new adult, but specifically like fantasy. I am a huge fan of Black and Muslim authors. So I love Ember in the Ashes. I love Cassandra Clare. I love Children of Blood and Bone. What else do I love? Girl, I read everything. I love me some smut here and there. Like, we keep it well rounded. I Lord, I do a lot. On my socials, you'll find me talking about books. I talk about like self-care and fashion, specifically modest fashion. I do some makeup. Yeah, I do a lot. I'm all over the place.
I like how you say you do some makeup and you're out here with like the most stunning eye look, just being
The
like,
way that this was an accident.
mm.
It literally was like, I don't know what I was
I
going
accidentally
for.
did this.
I don't know what I was going for, but I was like, oh, it kind of looks like clouds. Let's keep going with it.
Yes, I love it, man. Your eye looks make me want to buy like more colorful things on Instagram. So everyone follow her Instagram because it's great.
Yes.
Um, but like you always do the most like beautiful looks. Like in your recent
Thank
like
you.
reels, yeah. In your recent reels of what was it? It was
Oh,
like
Queen of Gilded Horn. Yeah.
yep. All your makeup looks. I was like, one day I'm gonna try and recreate this, but I don't
Thank
know. I don't
you.
know.
Thank you. That was so much fun to do.
Hi, welcome.
Hey.
Let us know if you guys are here. Say hi in the comments. Let me know if you read the book. Let's talk about love. We'll get into it. We're not going to do spoilers till the end, though. So you can
Okay,
stick around
cool.
if you haven't finished it.
Hopefully I remember some spoilers because
I know you texted me like weeks ago, like, oh, I finished it. And I was like, oh,
because
I
I was
haven't even
scared.
started.
I was so scared I wasn't gonna be able to get to it. So I was like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, let me just read it now. And then I was like, I forget how fast I read contemporaries because it's not like world building and complex stuff and magic systems. It's
Hmm.
just regular people. And I was like, oh yeah, I finished this in like a week.
It's
Okay.
like regular people.
But just regular, it's not like dragons and like, all of that. It's
No,
just normal
zero
people.
complexity. Yeah. The most complex thing you have is like the turmoil you face in your life.
No, yeah, just like family drama,
Hmm.
casual.
Yeah. Yeah. So I literally finished it this morning. I love doing that with my book picks. I'm like
Mm.
waiting to the last second. So that way it's like I have all the feelings going in. I'm like, okay, let's talk about this because I have so much to say. So if you don't give away spoilers, I might because I really enjoyed the
You
book.
might
I'm
spark
very
some
interested to
spoilers
hear.
out of me. I always
Oh,
for if I forget what a book is about, I'll also forget like the spoilers, and then it'll all come back at the same time. And I'm like, oh
mhm.
yeah, but didn't they do that? And I'm like, oh, that's the whole plot. Like that's the whole
That's the whole
that's
book.
the
My bad.
entire
Mm.
series. No
It's
worries.
okay. We want to know the entire series. We want to get down nitty gritty. Even if
Yes.
like I don't know, personally I'm not like that. I like going in blind, but like live
Mm,
shows and stuff like that, I love it when people spill all of it because I'm like, am I
yeah.
gonna read this in the near future? No. So
No, yeah.
I'll just watch it.
It always
But
depends.
I'm also very interested to hear how you like the book. So if you
I
guys
think
finished it, let me know in the comments what you ended up rating it.
yes.
So what did you end up rating it?
Let me check my Goodreads. The way I literally Girl, don't be like me. I mean, I was
What?
trying to be like prepared for once and like read a book early, and then it's
Hmm.
just in my downfall now. I'm pretty sure I gave it, let me double check. I want to say 4 out of 5
Hmm.
stars. I think that was a vibe. When I'm thinking about it now, I'm like,
Vibe.
yeah, it was like, okay, yeah, I gave it I think a 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm leaning on a 4 star right now. I have to write my
Hmm.
review, little pro cons, because it did
Yeah.
have a few cons. But
Yeah.
also, I'm like, as a person who's ace, like literally crying throughout reading this book. I was like,
Aww. Aww.
but like it was, yeah. I also just enjoyed. Well, there were some things that I didn't enjoy, but we'll talk about that later.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I think a 3.5 or 4, like I think it was definitely in that range. There were definitely some things that were a little questionable, but then I would say majority of the book, it was interesting to get like the insight into her mind and what like her experiences, and also
Mhm.
seeing that she was somebody that was so like on the romantic scale, which was fun to see, fun to read about. Even me being somebody like that's not ace, of course, I was like a little confused as well. And then even like her explanations of it and what like love means to her, what romance means to her, what building intimacy looks like for her. I was like, okay, I love this. Like
Mhm.
it was, I feel like it was a level of depth that you kind of don't see in a lot of adult, like new adult romances, especially for somebody like being 20 something. And
Mhm.
I love that. I think when you took away the like sexual aspect, you kind of got to the bones of like her interest in people and what drew her to people. I love that. I also loved her cutie scale. I thought it was so cute.
I know that
I was like,
was so
oh,
funny. I'm like, wow, that's adorable. I like how so, like YA for some reason I feel like recently, if you have a character who's like kind of quirky or something, like or to prove they're quirky, they always have these like little elements. Just like,
yes,
oh, the cutie scale, yes. I rate and categorize everyone by aesthetic and by
yes.
color. It's
I
like,
was like,
oh, okay.
okay, all right. It's giving a little OTD as well, but hey, whatever, whatever floats your boat.
Oh my god! And I really enjoyed the metaphor in the book. That stood out to me was like jogging. Not everyone likes jogging, but some people really
Mm,
love it. I think that's inaccurate, just because I feel like most people hate jogging. So I feel like we need
mm,
to find something that most people enjoy, and then flip it. Like
yeah.
the people who like McDonald's. It's like you either like
Mm,
McDonald's or you like Wendy's more, or something weird like that.
What would you say is like, I mean, if you feel comfortable in your experience, what would you say is like a best analogy for how, like, how would you say instead?
Oh, I was watching a video from it's like that channel As is I forget what it's called.
I'm
It's
screaming
kind
that
of
you mentioned as is when I'm about to be on as is. That's hilarious.
that's yeah no and okay, because I was gonna say this is either the thing you were talking about, because I know you work
Yes.
for BuzzFeed now, pat on the back with
Yeah.
fam. But there's a lady in a video who explained it as, there's a restaurant that I go to once a year and it gives me indigestion, but like sometimes you do it.
Yeah.
And I
Hmm.
really like that because I think that works. But like for everyone, it's very different. Whereas like I feel
Mm,
like for this main character, her side is just like, I have zero cravings. I don't want to do it. Yada yada. Some people are repulsed. For me,
mm,
it's slightly different in the sense of like I would consider myself more of a gray sexual, like no, a once a year kind of
mm,
incursion. And then I'm
mm.
like get indigestion and be like, okay, tapped out
Yeah,
for the
I'm good.
year.
That was great.
Okay,
That was
okay, bye.
love that.
Oh my
See you next
god.
year. That was great.
You haven't read the book? It's very interesting. It's about a girl who's experiencing love after a breakup, and her breakup was mainly caused because she was ace, and her partner was like,
Yeah.
"You don't love me the way I love you." It's like,
Mm.
okay, crazy. Hello, thank you for joining. Oh my god, you are the best.
Yeah, I should definitely check out the book. I told Jess, I was like, I'm a little scared because I heard some mixed reviews. It wasn't even that the reviews I heard were bad, but
Mhm.
sometimes when you think about like books that fall on like the three range, like 3-star books are always going to be awkward. They're never going to be comfortable. So I was like a
Mhm.
little nervous about what that would look like, especially like me being someone who's not ace reading it. I'm like, do I even have the range to like conceptualize what is going on? But it was interesting, like I said, to just learn about it, and to hear more about it. But I was also really excited to see that it was a black female main character with an Asian guy. I was like, okay,
Right?
we love
I'm like,
you.
I want to see that more in the reviews. I feel like people are
Yeah.
always so focused on such random things when they do reviews.
I'm like, how did
And
you
I'm
not
like,
notice that?
yeah. And it's like one of my favorite aspects is their relationship. So I'm
Yeah,
like, precious, like two little
it was
beings.
so
I
cute.
loved it. It was very cute.
Takumi
I'm just like,
is everything. I love him. I was
yes,
like,
I want
I
one.
loved him. No, I literally loved him since they brought him on scene. I was like, yeah, he's a
Yep.
cutie.
The day he walked in, why are you staring at me so much? What's
I was like,
happening? What's going on?
I was like, oh my God. He was so cute. I loved him. Their relationship
Yeah.
was definitely adorable. And it's funny because when I was reading it, I was like, why does she sound so like young? And then I realized that she was like 21,
I think she was like
20,
19. I think
9.
she's
Yeah,
still considered a teenager.
she was super young. And I was like, oh, okay. This is like, like new adult kind of like I mean,
Really
it is new
fresh new
adult.
adult.
It is
Like
really, it's like, it's on
baby.
the lower scale of new adult. It's not like Sarah J. Maas new adult child.
Mm-mm.
We're not there.
You know.
But this is not
Honestly,
that
it
lifestyle.
almost felt very YA. Like I
Yeah,
was like, oh,
it
okay.
did. It was kind of, I would definitely say that it was kind of juvenile in regards to like the writing and the writing style. And I
Hmm.
think at first it kind of bothered me, but then when you hear more about like her relationship with her family and the fact that she is the youngest, and not only just the youngest, but like her siblings are so much older than her, I was like, yeah, I understand why she kind of thinks and acts and like acts that way, because she kind of hasn't had any experience to grow up. And then
Yeah.
also her friendships, which were questionable in my opinion. I mean, I
Me
felt
too. Yeah.
like, I don't know, I was just like, okay, first I was like, this is so cute. Love their friendship. I love how hard they ride for each other. And then I was like, this is a little like out of place. And I think we all know like that when you get out of high school and then you're trying to like stick with your friends, but then y'all are going in like so many different places, but you still want it to
Hmm.
work. And it just kind of felt off in that way. Like even their ideas about like, oh no, like you're my friend, you're my friend. And I mean, I guess that was the point. I guess that was the point. But for me, it was just like, not only is it a bit juvenile, it was kind of toxic. Especially what's her
Oh,
name?
yeah.
What's her friend's name? The white girl. What's her name?
Freeney?
Feeny. Yeah.
Feeny. It's like something with an F. I completely agree. We'll get into her when we talk
Oh
about
my
characters
God.
and stuff. But I did also want to point out
Girl.
what you said when it came to like the writing style, because
Yeah.
I definitely felt the first like three chapters, I was like, this sounds kind of like a child. It does. And
Yeah.
there was that one scene, which is not a spoiler at all, where she's crying because of their first interaction together. Was embarrassing, I guess, for her. And she was crying, calling her friend crying. And I was just like,
Yeah.
I was
I was
really
like,
confused about that. I
as
was like,
I have anxiety as well. Like things stress me out, but I wouldn't, I don't know, like to just sit there and crying because a guy like looked at you. I was like, this is a bit,
yeah, I would
kind of a
understand
bit
more
much.
so if she had anxiety. It wasn't explained that
Yeah,
she had anxiety. She went to the
exactly.
doctor or like the therapist sessions for how to communicate her feelings. She didn't say she had anxiety. So when she started like straight up like sobbing and calling her friend, being like, I embarrassed myself, I was like,
Yeah.
where? But I guess
Yeah.
that's just
That was,
me
you
being
weren't
also a very
diagnosed.
stubborn person.
My girl, you were not diagnosed in this book. I don't know where this is coming from.
Yeah, so I was just like, "You're 19." Oh, and then another point you made about her being so young, and, like,
Yeah.
that's also a huge point because it's like she doesn't know what she wants to major in, she doesn't know what she
Yeah.
wants to do. Her parents also have been kind of coddling her, same with her siblings, her whole
Siblings.
life.
And then her friendship as well. Like them, like she didn't have to go out and get new friends. She's had the same people
Yeah.
since like elementary school.
Yeah, so it's like she has so much growing to do, and what I liked about her is that she realized that she has lots of growing to do. That's why she wants to like not go to law school and not do what the
Yeah.
parents say, or like go out and meet new people. Like she's
Yeah.
trying, but it's like yeah, it's definitely her first time going out and doing things in the real world. I'm like, yeah, she's very mature, and I think she realizes it. She's like, I need to grow up, but she's still gonna call her friend and cry. So it's like, okay.
Yeah. It was definitely interesting. That was
Hmm.
definitely interesting.
Yeah. But the writing style, so you also felt that it was a little simple in the sense, because I also felt
Yeah.
like that too. There
It
felt
was
very
definitely,
YA.
it felt super YA. She kind of read as if she was like 16, which
Hmm.
was interesting because then you're reading about her being in college and then like her friends about to get married. And I'm like, all of y'all sound 12 to me. So that was a little bit all over the place, in my opinion. And I think that if the writing had more, I guess, of like a mature take as well, just because I feel like as young adults, what's really
Hmm.
the situation is like you feel like kind of old. Like you feel like, you know a little bit of something, but then you also don't know stuff at all
Yeah,
at the
that's
same time.
exactly that's how I am right now too. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I know what I want, but it's like, okay, girl, you actually don't. You're
Yeah.
like,
How do
you're
I get
on the
here now?
precipice. You're
Yeah.
about to learn. But
And it
it's
was
like
just
that
all
idea.
vision for her. It was like all like, oh my gosh. And I was like, but even the fact that she's been in college for a year, like on her own,
Mhm.
that hasn't brought up any like independence in you. I mean, she
Mhm.
wanted it. Like she definitely wanted it. I also related to that part of the book of just really wanting to be on your own, to like make your own decisions and to have that be respected and to not be babied by the people around you. It was interesting because I think a better way that it could have been done is like the way that Talia Hibbert wrote Chloe in not Chloe, Eve, an actor age Eve
An
Brown.
actor age. Okay, I haven't read that.
Yeah.
I've only read the first one.
And
But
you would love actor age only because Eve, I didn't realize it, but Eve is like 23. She's like
mhm.
20. She's the youngest of the Brown sisters. She doesn't have a career. Like she literally doesn't know what she wants to do in life. Her career is all over the place, but like you still get the idea of like, like a young person, like you kind of know what you want, kind of don't know. And so I feel
You're
like
like, I
that's
know I don't
what I
want
want.
that, but I want something else.
Yeah, I want this, but I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but I want it. Like you feel like an adult, you're paying some bills, but then it's like, yeah, I need you to make that doctor's appointment for me. Cause like, like that's just what it is, to be like a young adult. So
Oh,
I think that was a little bit.
so apparently it is classified as young adult. So it is, but she's 19. So that's a little interesting. Why
That
choose that
is.
age and be in college? And it's
That's the start of
interesting.
new adult though. Like 19 to what, like 24, 23 is new adult.
I think so. I personally don't know the specifics. I would assume as soon as you reach college to like, I would even almost say to 30s. Your late 20s can be still classified as an adult in my head, not in
Yeah.
literature standards. I
Yep.
know my standards are very different, but like most 29, 28-year-olds I meet still don't have their stuff together. So I'm like, we're all
That is
learning
true as well.
together.
No, yeah. But I
That
guess that
makes
makes
more sense because I feel like the way she behaved and things like that, and also the way they explained asexuality, this felt very educational in a sense where it's like, I'm going to explain how I feel and like explain how I've grown to understand myself, even the cutie code. Like, it just, that makes
yeah.
more sense.
Okay, so if you think about it like that, then I would say that from the perspective of like maybe educating or introducing your audience to asexuality to somebody who is biromantic, then I guess I would, I guess, I guess we could say it's a 4. It's something that I feel like if I would give to a 16, 17-year-old who was experiencing that, I think that they would definitely relate to it. I think it would make a lot of sense for them. I think even the cutie code is like, now that you think about it, it's like, it's not just a way for her to decipher what she wants, but also potentially for people who are ace or somewhere on the ace spectrum to like identify what their feelings are. So I mean, I guess that makes a lot of sense.
It
Okay.
does. I would have loved this book when I was how old? Like when I was just
Mm.
starting to understand romance and stuff. Because I kind of she mentions that she learned about it in high school, which I think is interesting. Most aces that
Mm.
I've talked to don't learn about it in high school because it's not really spoken about. Like if I ask my
Yeah, at
guidance
all.
counselor, I also don't know most high schoolers who go to their guidance counselor,
Yeah,
but
it
that's
doesn't
just
happen.
me.
It
It
doesn't
doesn't
happen.
happen. It's something I learned in college. Like I stumbled upon it because there was like a queer group meeting and like ace was one of the labels and I read it and I'm like, that makes sense because I've always
Mm.
like I just feel like you just kind of don't realize how everyone's perception is so different that for
Yeah,
some people it's totally normal to like want to have intercourse all the time, like that's
yeah,
normal, and I think that's what high schools teach as being normal.
yeah.
It's like this is something you want and you have to not want it. That's what
And
high
then even
schools
the
teach
media,
you.
like first of all, especially in the US, like high schoolers are so hypersexualized to the point where people's normal ass experiences are not even depicted. Like nobody is sitting here having sex on the bleachers, and then it makes people feel like they're weird because that wasn't their experience in high school. That's not how they feel. I mean, maybe they do have sex, but it's not like that. It's not, and it's not
Mhm.
the way that you see depicted. And I think that also influences how people feel about themselves. If you're seeing that, you just feel so off. I felt the same way growing up. I mean, I had a long-term boyfriend in high school, but still, I still was not interested in that stuff. I was just it didn't fit me. Me being Muslim, I just wasn't interested in that. So I always couldn't relate to people that I saw in movies and in
Yeah.
TV shows and then even sometimes in books. And I'm like, are y'all okay? Like,
Y'all okay? Why are you constantly doing this? Why are you constantly pushing this idea? And I feel like it's the same for
yeah,
even in college. People still push this idea of like college being, if you didn't peak in high school, like, oh, you're going to peak in college and you're going to get all the ladies. It's like, college is like to pursue your dream career path, not to like, I know for
yeah,
some people it's to socialize, but the
yeah.
idea that everyone's there to socialize and meet their soulmate or something, it's like you're paying a lot of money just to be social. Like, that's a little
This is
crazy, don't you
this is
think?
a lot for a club, but okay.
Yeah, it's a lot for a club. Like I could literally mortgage a house with this amount of money that I'm spending. But
I
yeah,
feel that.
yeah, it's very interesting.
Crazy.
I'm glad it's like more educational because that makes sense. Especially,
It
did you
does.
find it easy to understand like the concepts they were explaining? I thought they were explained
Yeah.
pretty well.
What's funny? I was reading the book and I was kind of figuring. I was like, I'm like, am I somewhere on the A spectrum? And then I think what was interesting was because like the way she was explaining um what would require for her to be not even just sexually aroused, but just to be interested in like having sex in the first place. I thought that was something that was very interesting because even with me, I'm like, it's not really like a thought, but I'm like, I think for me, it was more of the importance that has just been instilled in me to have that connection with somebody, to have somebody that's committed to you. So for me, it's not even a thought
Mhm.
in regards to like a person if I don't know them. You know, it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, you cute. You look nice.
But I don't know you.
Yeah, your arms is nice. Okay, I like your beard, but I don't know you. Like, I don't know nothing about you. And I think even with that, I think it's nice to see the another side of what may even cause you to be sexually aroused or attracted to somebody that's outside of just, oh my gosh, like I can't control myself. Like I'm like, people are in heat when you look at teenagers on TV. I'm like, are y'all okay? It's giving werewolf, it's giving Jacob imprinting
It
on
is.
people. It's just
It is.
it's so unrealistic. So even though like I said, I'm not ace, but I definitely could still relate to her experience of just sex means something different to me. That doesn't mean
Mhm.
the same thing to me that it may mean to other people. And I think, like I said, I was able to rationalize a lot of my feelings, even with her therapist who was explaining to her after she had that moment of like, she's like, oh my god, what is this? I'm like aroused. Like, what's going on? It was so funny because her therapist was like, well, that's just like a physical reaction. But if it doesn't also like tie into how you're feeling like mentally and emotionally, it's just like it is, it is what it is. And so I
Mhm.
even reading that, I was like, yeah, there's definitely instances where you may feel like, oh, somebody's just cute, or you may have a physical reaction to somebody, but that does not mean that you would like get into bed with them. I
Yeah.
related. I
Like,
thought it made a lot of sense to me.
mhm. And it's so funny because it's like I love those conversations that they kept happening where it's like every person's different in how they are either on the spectrum. Even if every day you can
Yeah.
decide certain days or certain periods in your life where you're like, I'm going to prioritize this. Where it's like, sure, you look cute, but I'm not looking for that in my life. And I
Yeah.
know that's how some people feel, even when it comes to having sex, that they're like, oh, I'm not looking for something serious. There's also
Yeah.
the opposite of like, oh, I'm not looking for anything intimate. It's
Yeah.
like, so I love that they had the conversation that like you may think you understand yourself completely, but like some people will throw you for a loop and you have to realign and figure out what do you want. And I
Yeah.
love that because it's not a conversation of like what you need or anything. Because I feel like YA books will always do that when you're in love. It's like, oh, I need this person or I
Yeah.
need this. And it's like, that's why I was like, okay, figure out what's like good for you first
Yeah.
and then like ask the person and like
Yeah.
not in a not creepy way. Like, let's figure this out together.
Yeah.
And let's work it out and that everything is a spectrum. Like, and I feel like that should be taught more in high school. Cause yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like it's definitely presumptuous to be like everyone is exactly the same. If a guy flirts with a girl, like that they want to be in a relationship together, apparently, is like what we're
Yeah.
told. It's like, okay, if you're hitting on someone, you like their appearance, you either want them or you it's like it's weird. It's
It's
weird.
it's not it's not helpful, especially because people have different boundaries and people are just comfortable with different things. I definitely agree that the idea of just a lot of things being on the spectrum and being fluid is really
Mhm.
helpful because you may feel something different every day. And like that is still valid, that is still a part of you. That doesn't erase who you are, that doesn't change who you were yesterday, doesn't invalidate who you identify with as tomorrow. Like you never know. Like things are kind of crazy. And especially like you said, so you may meet somebody who throws you for a loop. And even the ideas about yourself or your reactions to certain things can very much be based on your environment. And so who
Mhm.
knows, you're in a new environment, you're meeting somebody new, you never know. Like, and I think just being open to that, I think like you were saying earlier with YA romances, it's always like a very specific structure. It's this and this and this, and then we're in love and we're gonna stay together forever. And
Mhm.
there's not a lot of space for even saying no to having sex, even just wanting things to be slow, even for like, a guy not really being interested in having a sexual relationship or things like that. We're not showed that. And I think it definitely shows in how we interact with each other because literally guys will think because they bought you a drink that y'all have to go have sex. And they're like, but who
Mhm.
told you that? Where is this expectation at? Who
Yeah.
told you that? We went out and got burgers.
Yeah.
I'm confused.
Yeah, like
Where
the
did that come
obligation
from?
I invested in you, so you have to invest back in me. It's like, okay, money on a date is one thing, but like
Right.
that's a whole other thing that we haven't even talked about yet. So yeah, it's very interesting. I also think it's interesting that a lot of guys, and there was this one scene in the book, and this isn't a spoiler, where a guy approached her at the beach and was like, "Oh, she's cute. Like I'm gonna try and help her, and I want to get her number and
Yeah.
stuff." And like she didn't feel comfortable saying no, and she took his number because it's like there's normally men or like people who are, and she did say it's I knew it was hard for him to do this, so I thought that
Yeah,
was nice too. It's because it's very hard to like go ask for someone's number.
it
Totally
is.
understand that, but I feel like we can also normalize being like, no, I'm not like, no. I've been in that same spot where someone asked for my number and I was like, here you go, and I'm just gonna ghost
Yeah,
you
let
because I
me
don't
give
know how
you
to say no.
a Google note,
uh,
a Google voice number, a
like, oh
fake number
god.
generator.
Hmm. Yeah, the romance. Let's see what. Yes. What first off, thanks for joining the live. Love you. And yeah,
Period.
especially in YA, the expectations for romance are so skewed. Period.
I felt
Agreed.
set up
100%.
when I got in my relationship with my ex, who I was with for like 6 years. I felt set up. I was like, nobody prepared me for this. Like
Hmm.
all of the ups and downs, even just like learning yourself. And ultimately, like that's why we broke up. Just like, growing apart and realizing that you are different people than who you were when you got together, and that's okay. Another thing is that like in YA, they show you that everything is forever. Like relationships are forever. And you can want something to last forever. You can want that to be, a long term type of situation. But I think there's not enough emphasis on what's healthy for you. Like what's
Hmm.
healthy for your relationship, what's healthy for your dynamics. Like she could have stayed with her original girlfriend that she was with in the beginning of the book. If the intention was just, oh, I just want to be loved, I just want to be loved, I just want to be loved, I want to give love to somebody, but it wasn't healthy and it didn't make sense. And even being in that relationship was triggering for her. It was hard for her, but I really respected her in that moment for being able to assert that boundary. And even though she didn't do it as she did a lot better with Takumi later on, but even the subtle ways that she was just showing, like, I still love and care about you. But if you're not down,
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. And even distancing yourself from other people's like perceptions of you, I think that was something she definitely was learning throughout the book, because I think she just didn't want to be seen or talked about as if she didn't care about love and romance, as if that wasn't important to her, as if she didn't like desire people, but it was just different for her. I think once she kind of became more comfortable with that within herself, and even how that showed up with Takumi, I think you saw like her relationship with him kind of blossom. I don't think she was kind of worried as much as she was in that first relationship with that girl. I think her name was like Jade or something. I think her name was Jade. I don't know.
I think it was
But
Margaret.
oh, but yeah, but I think her relationship with Takumi definitely was a lot like easier once she allowed herself to kind of just exist and be in that relationship after she got over like the awkward crying stuff, of course.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think you're definitely told that when someone likes you, you give it a try and you like give it your all. And it's like, hey, maybe you shouldn't. Like maybe if they're not listening to your needs, don't do it. So I agree with you. Sometimes you're really set up for failure. And I always forget that we have very similar stories in the sense that I also had a 6 year relationship, a very long-term relationship with someone that I thought was gonna be the one. And it's
A
like I
little.
didn't even know myself going into that relationship. So it's like, how would I succeed? Because I'm constantly changing. Because if we started dating in like freshman year of high school. It's like you are
Mm,
such a different person with such different needs and wants than
yeah,
at the end when you're like thinking about, okay, career wise, I don't like as an actor, my life is a mess. Like I would
yeah,
assume like modeling is very similar in the sense of one day I'm going to be working for 3 months. Might not be working. I might have to
absolutely,
travel. It's just
absolutely.
yeah. So it's like I don't have any concrete paths to be like, this is my future. I'm like, I just want this desperately. And like, I feel like that's become more important to me in my life than
Mm,
other relationships. And it's just weird because you're constantly growing and changing. Like,
I love
what else
that.
do you say? The scene is real. Some types, so no.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Would you
but just
just go?
honor those feelings. It is okay to
Yeah.
still like saying no. People think it's something that has to be easy. No, saying no does not have to be as easy as saying yes, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't say it. That doesn't mean it's not going
Mhm.
to feel awkward, but you still got to do it. If you don't feel like you want to, I mean, if you don't feel comfortable saying yes, you have to say no.
Yeah. And I like that, respecting that it does take courage to say no. Like it like
Yeah,
took the courage to ask. And it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to turn you down because of X, Y, and Z. And also the fact that I don't really need to explain X, Y, and Z. Like I just
yeah.
no, I'm sorry. Then
No
it's
is a
like,
full sentence. Period.
yeah,
You don't
it's
have to
like
waste an
that.
explanation if you don't want to.
Mm-hmm. And then distance. You mentioned this, yeah, distancing yourself. And I think Takumi said that also at
Yeah,
some point with his ex. Oh my god, I completely left because he
that shit was
had
crazy.
like a 4 year relationship. He was
Yeah,
engaged. and she was cheating on him like multiple times, and he's like,
consistently, like a serial cheater.
yeah, yeah. So distancing yourself from people is so like I think it's becoming more common now. Like if someone's
Yeah,
toxic in your life, to be like, hey, I'm just gonna kind of shift away from you. I'm not gonna take your bad energy with me, especially if you
yeah.
like harm me emotionally all the
And
time.
he
Like,
wanted his ex so bad. I was like, "Aw." I
yeah.
felt that like I was there. Like I didn't want to let go of my relationship. I was like, "No, like it's been so long." Like very similar to you. Like we got together when we were 16, and I'm like,
Mhm.
here we are. You know, like we're 22 now, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's been so long. You want it to work. You want it to work, but it's like I think you get to a point where you don't want to hate each other. You know, you don't want to have that animosity, and you kind of just want people to be allowed to be themselves, even if who they are no longer aligns with where you're at. And I think it was
Mhm.
so I think it was so interesting to see that first of all, her and Takumi, what is the girl's name? I have Ramadan
Which
brain.
girls?
My brain is like off. Um,
You see, for
the
some reason I
main
thought you said
character.
ramen, not Ramadan. I was like, you have ramen brain? Why are you eating ramen?
Wish I was eating anything.
Sorry, sorry. We won't talk about food. We won't talk about food.
The main character's name. Why did I forget her name all of a sudden? We were just talking about her.
We were. Let me Google it because I also forget. I always forget main characters' names.
Leave her name in the comments. Leave it in the comments.
Help us out.
I'm
Why do I
screaming.
always Alice?
Um,
Is it Alice?
Alice. Yes, that was
Okay,
good. That
I
wasn't
got
that
it. I
short.
got
That
it.
didn't take as long as I thought. Her and Takumi's relationship was interesting in the way
Mhm.
that okay, I can say that they were trying to push this whole relationships can be more than just sex thing by making them
Mhm.
just be friends for so long. I'm sorry. If you are like pulling me into your lap and I'm taking care of you when you're sick and you're like nuzzling in my neck and all of that, you're gonna have to be
That's
something.
romantic. Yeah, that's a
Or you're gonna have to
romantic
move away.
relationship.
I was like, she's like, yeah, we're just friends. Are you Alice? Are we friends? Is that what we call that? I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't know.
Mhm.
It was definitely bothering me to a certain extent because I was like, Miss Alice, can we like can what I mean, even though you don't have to be in a relationship with somebody if you don't want to. But
Mhm.
as somebody who was very, very romantic and who romanticized love and romance, you would think
Mhm.
that she kind of wouldn't allow herself to get into that place if
Mhm.
it wasn't like serious. And we saw that later on in the book. Obviously, no spoilers, but we just saw that play out later on in the book, and it was like, yeah, you hurt now, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
rubbed up on
I
her
think
like
a
a
lot
man.
of that comes from just the fear of rejection. So she's like, I'm gonna take whatever I can get because at this point, I'm scared everyone's gonna hate me in my life. But I
We
agree
were
with
gonna ask
you.
too. He was sitting there too, and I'm like, Takumi, what is going on? What's happening?
Yeah, having a conversation and stuff. And that's why I also she felt very young in the sense of like where being honest with him was like, okay, this might end our relationship, so I'm just gonna keep putting it off. She was that character. She kept putting off everything, decisions, and talking to her friends about all their issues.
Yeah,
So it's like that's definitely I feel like a character trait, and like maybe something I would totally do in my
yeah,
youth, being like, I
you're
want to
right.
avoid this because I rather take rejection later, and it's like that's not very healthy.
Takumi was cute as hell too. Listen, I might. What's up? We might have a conversation. I'm down.
Yeah.
I may delay a serious conversation if I got this cute man just sitting up in my face. It might happen. I'm
Yeah,
that
like you're like,
person.
okay, I'll take care of you. We'll
No,
eat soup and
literally,
cuddle.
yes. But I'm that person. Like when I'm reading books, the traits that make me so mad are the traits that I have within myself. It's hilarious. I'm like, what is
I
wrong
love
with
that.
her? And I'm like, I did that last
Oh,
week. It was me. I'm like, no, but you don't do this on the page. It looks crazy reading about it, but I be doing it all the time. I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
I will do that too. He's fine. He's cute. And like,
Mhm.
yo, we work in a library. He's good with kids. He's a teacher. Girl,
So cute.
girl,
So
love
cute. Oh my god. And I love that. Yes, we stand healthy relationships. Yes.
him.
Yes,
Period.
yes. And then let's
Like
talk about it. Yes. But do you, Alice? Exactly, exactly. I think in the moment you just have to figure out if you're doing it for the right reasons. Cause her, like and him, I like, yeah, be friends for a while. Totally. If she needs to take her time to figure out who she is and what she actually wants and needs from the relationship, sure. So do what you want. I just feel like you gotta be careful with people's
It
feelings.
felt weird because the only things that was friends about them was by title. And I feel like if we're going to have the boundary of we're gonna be friends, that boundary has to be past just me saying we're friends. That also has to be
Mhm.
like in how we acted in our behavior with each other, especially him being a little bit older than her. It's like, yeah, like you can't be saying you're talking about, yeah, we friends, but we doing X, Y, and Z. There, that boundary needs to be past just, oh yeah, I'm calling you my friend, but you're cuddling in my
Mhm.
bed, making me sick,
Mhm.
essentially getting yourself sick. Yeah. Questionable.
Yep, and I was so confused about his intention. I was too, because like had just broken up with this girl who has been like kind of using him in a sense. I don't know what her aim was, but like we don't know anything about his
No.
past
We didn't even
relationship
hear that
besides the
until
fact,
later. They didn't bring
yeah.
it up until later on, which was so weird considering how he was definitely like pursuing Alice from jump. Like you can tell that he was
Mhm.
interested in her because he kept having conversations with her, talking to her, like going out of his way to speak to her and like finding her and all of that. But just
Mhm.
for him to have more than
Making
that,
food for her, making food, making dinners for her.
I'm so confused. And I was like, but here you are with what is going on? Y'all are, oh my gosh. But let me think
He
about it.
was,
Like,
yeah.
romances really do be that complicated. Like, especially with like in college and stuff. If y'all think relationships are simple, they're messy and confusing and all mixed up. And especially when you're more of an adult because you're dealing with somebody older, you're dealing with somebody who may have kids, you're dealing with somebody who you never know. Relationships are super
Mhm.
complicated. But for a YA, I don't know how I feel about a YA book with like a girl who's 19 with somebody who's past college, but I don't know. That's none of my business. But for a YA book, that didn't need to be that complicated because it confused me so much. And I can imagine a younger, like teenager reading it and then being confused about that as well. I definitely agree. It was a lot going on. I was like, what?
There was a lot, and what I'm kind of like sad about is like I do like the complexity. I feel like it makes it more honest. But what was kind of sad is that we hear a lot about Alice's story, and she kind of mentions it in the end. This isn't a spoiler, that like she's kind of self-centered. She's only thinking about herself.
Mm,
That she's just realizing like, oh, I need to care about your feelings, and I need to talk to you about how I feel. That's being love. But
yeah,
we don't hear about his family. He barely
no.
talked about his parents, and he constantly like was avoiding it. And he's
Yeah,
like,
it
I
just
have a
mentioned it and that was it. And I'm like, well, why bring it up?
yeah, and then it's like he's like, "I don't feel comfortable talking about it." Like, yes, I respect your boundaries, but because this is a book, like, are we gonna dive into the nitty-gritty? Are we only gonna talk about Alice and we're just gonna pretend that you're all good, even though you just said you're not? Like, it was that part
I
was a
would have
little
loved
shaky.
to
I
see
would have
his
loved
point
it.
of view.
Me
Yeah, making the
too.
book another like maybe 150 pages and then also we adding his point of view, I think would have added a lot of depth into the book.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, but for YA, you can only really, really go so far.
Yeah, and
Oh
her
gosh,
perspective. Wow, that was
yes,
a hard word to find.
that was the word.
Um, with like the important part of like understanding love, especially at a young age, where it's like it's
Mm,
not about just your feelings and what you want out of the
yeah,
relationship, but like sharing your needs and meeting in the middle and just always being very honest and talking about
yeah,
it. Like that was kind of like the whole message. I also love that talking about love, it was not just a romantic love, it was also love with her friends and her parents. I think it's
yeah,
perfect time that we talk about that crazy friend of hers because she's on my con list. I did not
yeah.
like her.
It
Franny,
was
friend.
so weird. This girl don't got nothing going on for herself. She just wants to be a housewife, which I'm not shaming her for that. But I just feel
Mhm.
like for somebody who doesn't have that much going on and like you have a whole lot to say. You have a whole lot of opinions, but don't be adding nothing to nowhere. Like all you do
Mhm.
is fight people. That's great.
She's a grown woman who got arrested for fighting two people in this last year, in her first year of college. I'm like, that's like terrible. That's like
Like,
horrible.
and then how you had to get bailed out, and then even the fact that yeah, they're like, yeah, we're gonna get married. What? To who? For what? Like what?
Also,
Oh
yeah, why
God.
are we getting married right now? And they also didn't explain why the marriage was moved
Ever.
up besides it like it mentioned like there was an availability. I'm like, okay, but that doesn't mean you instead of getting married 2 years from now when you graduate from college are done maturing in a sense. You're rushing it to be in 6 months. That's like a huge difference, especially if you're
Yeah.
20 something. I feel like if you're
And
in
you
your
already live
30s,
together.
it's fine. But if you're 20, you're already living together. Like, why are we rushing to get married? Like, what's the point? That confused me a lot. I'm
That's
glad
really good
she in the
friend.
end, yeah. I'm glad in the end that she kind of figured out that she wanted to go back to school and stuff. But
Yeah.
she was also one of those complex characters that I feel like we didn't talk about. She also hated her parents, but she was just like very like selfish and like did the most like half-assed apology because
Yeah. Barely.
basically we might be getting into spoilers now because I really want to talk about this character. In the beginning, she is like, ride or die. I will die for you. Crazy. But I also didn't understand how in the beginning she kept talking about, well, maybe you want to have sex with him. Like maybe you want to kiss him. And like I'm like, you know your friend's ace and she's
Yeah.
struggling with like having her first like physical attraction to somebody and you're
Yeah.
over here being like, we need to have a plan to like
Yeah.
get you to date him. And I'm like, this is like the opposite of what you should be doing
It
right
was
now.
so crazy. I honestly feel like she's that girl that just has nothing going on, is like nowhere, but she's latched on to people. And they're still around her because of that relationship that they had when they were younger. But realistically, there's nothing left here. Like even her with the guy, I think his name is Alex. Am I bugging? I don't know. Names is all over the place. But the Filipino guy that she was with,
Ryan.
Ryan, there we go. The guy that she was with, I didn't see anything between them other than
You
like I
didn't
felt like
see their
everybody was
relationship.
in relationship with her out of obligation. That's what it felt like. And everybody was babying her and catering to her feelings. And I hate that. Especially because if we're gonna have this book and we're talking about relationships and like you were talking about, let's talk about love. We
Mhm.
also have to talk about the fact that just because you were with somebody, even platonically, for a certain amount of years, does that give them the right to like treat you like shit? Or even that they still have the right to be in your life now. Like Alice had the right to sit there and be with whoever she wanted to be. She didn't have to
Mhm.
report home to the girl. No, who are you? You have a
Yeah.
man. Like, and then the fact that
Yeah.
even Ryan was telling Alice like, "Oh, you have to go talk to her." I would have popped him in his mouth. Talk to who? About what?
That's
Who's
not my
wrong?
girlfriend. Yeah.
Get
Like
your girl. What the
yeah.
hell?
It was
Oh my
very odd
god.
because he would also say like the things that they would try and like to communicate with this one person, they would try and figure it out. Like, let's cook something so she's in a better mood and yada yada. And it was kind of played off as being, oh, she knows she's a difficult person. She admits that I'm sorry, I'm a difficult person, which is totally okay. But I think at the same time, it's like, okay, do I want to like we should have had the conversation of should we stay in each other's lives if we're not
Yeah.
helping each other?
You're
Like,
negatively impacting each other. So it's not just, oh, this
yeah.
is who I am, but it's like who you are is literally hurting the people that you say are the closest to you. Like that's annoying.
For sure. And also for a girl who was about to get married, she was weirdly codependent. Oh, 100%. And when the whole time she was emotionally absent and condescending. Exactly. Like
Ryan
she
was a better
left
friend. Ryan was a
Ryan
way better friend.
100%. Yes. And like I wish we kind of because I don't get their like their best friendness. Basically, it's like I'll fight anyone who is mean to you, but then at the same time, I don't like. Let's
Girl,
when
you a
it comes
bodyguard?
to
I could hire a
that's it.
bodyguard.
That's all I got. It's like you're not even a good bodyguard. You're getting arrested. Like you're not doing your job.
You getting caught
Clearly.
and you my bodyguard? Who you guarding? You have a guard in prison. No.
In prison. Oh my god.
Like
Yeah,
what
yeah.
is that?
Yeah.
I felt bad for
Ryan was
Ryan.
definitely I feel bad for him too, in the sense that I also don't understand how in this story about love and understanding how it's growing and changing, how their relationship kind of was just the same, her and Ryan. Like there was no growth between them, even though they're all shifting, I feel like, or they were kind of talking about how, oh, we're all going in different paths and different things.
Yeah.
But it's like they were stagnant.
Yeah.
They're like, we're just getting married, period. That's our story. It's like,
That was
okay,
it. It was so frustrating because I think the conversations were great, but conversation without action is just a waste of time, if we're being honest. So they're
yeah,
talking about these things, and she was having conversations with Ryan, but then when Feeney's around, he's a different person. He's like, "Yeah, Alice."
yeah, Alice. Excuse me. You were on my side behind her back, and then now you're not. It was just weird. It was weird, and
Oh
it
my
sounds like they are
god.
constantly fighting. She mentioned that they are constantly fighting. Yeah,
Yeah.
it did feel like a toxic relationship. Yeah,
Even
yeah,
the way that they were, if we're being honest, the way that they were so lovey-dovey with each other, it was screaming codependency. Like, oh yeah, I love you so much, I would die for you. You know that, and I'm like, love my friend. I have people that I love very, 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 very much, but sometimes that does not have to always be yelled and screamed. And they know that, and I think the reason why their relationship was so loud like that was because it was to make up for the fact that there was no death. Like, oh
I
yeah, I
was
was
just
after
gonna
you.
say that
I would beat up
when you
everybody
say
for
it.
you. Girl.
Yeah. When you just say it because you know it's not really there and you really, really want it to be there. And so you're
Yep.
just gonna keep like, ah, ah. So it's interesting because I feel like this book, it was tackling a lot when it came to love. And I
A
feel
lot.
like the romantic relationship was kind of talked about a lot on one side. We got Alice's I keep getting stumbled on that one word. I can't
Perspective.
even. You know me. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
We really got her viewpoint, and it's like
Yeah.
very clear and concise, but everything else was a little muddled. Like I
Mm.
kind of liked her parents and her familiar relationships were also kind of dealt with in an
Oh my
interesting,
God,
more
her and her
realistic
sister.
way.
I want to beat her sister up. Her older sister was bothering me, and I'm an older
Yes.
sister, and so I'm just like, girl, if you how you calling me just because you're upset because of whatever your relationship is with our mom, girl, you grown, you
Yeah.
30 something. If you don't want to call me, don't call me. Talking about, oh, mom told me to call you, so let me curse you out.
Yeah.
What's that?
Also,
So verbally
that's
abusive.
so verbally abusive. And like that she kept threatening Alice. She'd be like, "You don't want me to do this or else." And I'm like, are you saying you're gonna assault another grown up in this circumstance?
Is that what we're doing? And
And
aren't
she's
some
like,
families lawyers? You're going to
yeah,
prison. It's
yeah,
illegal. You're going to
it's
prison. I don't
illegal.
know.
And it's just like I thought it was funny because the book would literally say like, and I don't want that, and I like, or like, I don't want to be on the bad side of her relationship or whatever. And I'm just like, don't excuse this person's actions. The only one who was
That was
also nice was
crazy.
her brother and kind of
Yeah.
understanding. Okay, we have to deal with the parents. I'm not
Yep.
saying you need to agree with them, but like, let's talk it out. Meet them somewhere where they'll understand where you're coming from. The sister
Yeah.
was crazy. She's really wild.
She was literally like batshit. I didn't know what was going on. I was very confused. I was like, there's no moment of like niceness and like peace. And if you think about it, it explains why Alice was bugging out when she had to have a conversation with anybody, and also why she was so codependent on Feeny. Like she didn't have anybody her age, any real friends. This is her only sister. And so her actual blood sister, they have a toxic relationship. It's not surprising that this other girl, they have a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
abuse was mentioned between, like, assault was mentioned a lot of times with these
Yeah,
two
it sounds
women.
like Feeny will fight and this girl beats up on her sister. I'm like, this is not
Not healthy.
normal.
No,
Not
not at all.
healthy.
Not healthy at all.
Yeah. So it's interesting that I feel like when it came to talking about love, I feel like this book opened up a lot of doors of like
Mm,
talking about love, but like also did not flush it out as much. I still think it was a
yeah.
fun book, but now like talking to you, I'm like reflecting, I'm like, there was so many toxic relationships in this book that were just kind of rolled over. Like, oh yeah, I had an impulsive cheating ex, but like I'm totally down to have another relationship with you. It's like you should be dealing with so much trust issues.
Yep.
You thought this one was the one, that you were going to get engaged. You have years of experiences together. It's like you have to have some trauma after
Yeah.
that. So you should talk to someone.
Even with her parents, if you think about it, like, I know a lot of people probably could relate to the fact that, they weren't like planned, and their parents have very specific ideas of what they want for their children's lives. And then it's always awkward when you as a child is kind of figuring your own path and it's so different from what your parents had in mind. But when you think about the fact that like being disowned and how much pressure her parents were also being financially manipulative with her and like not respecting her boundaries at all, like logging into her account to see what it's like. None of that is okay. None of that is healthy. But then you wonder why she has a hard time picking or explaining what she wants to do in life. Where has she ever had the space to assert any boundaries or to choose anything? And you're confused about why she halfway through the semester, she ain't made no decision. She's never allowed to make a choice. Why would she make a choice? And the thing that she likes, you're telling her it's not going to be like, she's not going to do well at it, which is so frustrating because I know so many people, so many Black parents, like Black kids go through the same thing with their parents. It's like, yeah, no, you can't do this. You can't do anything creative because it's not going to work for you. And it's like, well, she literally was going to go to school for it. Like, is the important thing not her continuing this education? Like, even her sitting there being like, I'm going to have to work another job. I'm going to have to, I may not be able to go to this school. I may have to transfer to another school. I really respected that and resonated that. That's kind of just been like my experience of I didn't choose when I was going to have some independence, but like now I'm here and I kind of just have to figure things out. So I really respected that she was willing to grow up, take those steps, and stick to what she wanted to do. Because it would have been so much easier for her to just sit there and say yes to her parents. She would have had all the luxuries in the world. She would have been able, to still have that money and stay in the
Mhm.
school. But she was willing to like give all that up to pursue what she wanted. But it's just sad to think that she was so scared to lose her parents because of a decision like what she wants to major in for school. So
Yeah,
frustrating. I hated that. And
very
I
much.
do wish it was fleshed out a lot more. I think the book either could have been longer, it could have been another book, in my
Mhm.
opinion. Because I'm like,
I feel
you
like
brought
it
up
could
all
have
these
been
things.
just longer. Yeah, yeah. Like, let's actually have really healthy conversations, like with her mom. Like, hey, she at one point the mom was literally like, "You rather me angry with you than disappointed?" And she was like, "Yes." Like
Yeah.
heart, like, "Yes. I'd rather you be angry at me than disappointed in me." And it's like, well, why do we have that relationship? Let's
Yeah.
talk about it. I know in real life you don't get to really have those conversations with your parents and things like that. That's what books are for. It's like
Yeah.
we're learning, we're growing. It's like if we're going to try and mend this relationship, I want to see you mend it on the page. Like I want to
Yeah.
see, like, what are you thinking? What am I thinking? Because what you said, it's like, yeah, some people like most people I would assume decide to do what's easier and just follow through because like the fear of losing someone is real. And I think this is
Yeah.
something this character really like is having trouble with this whole book. I don't want to lose my possible new boyfriend. I don't want to lose my old friends. I don't want to lose my family. So you need to like really have a good communicative system with those people
Yeah.
to keep everything in check.
That's
It
a
is
really big theme if you think about it, like growth with the consequence or the risk at the risk of loss. And I think that is really symbolic of what most people go through as young adults because so many things are changing and you're also changing. And ultimately, in a very, what does Mulan say? Your honor is to your heart. Like you have to follow through. You have to hold on to that. And sometimes you are going to lose people. And I, I do kind of wish she lost some like the friendship with Feeny because I think that would
Mhm.
have empowered her so much. And not even that it would have had to be beef for her, but even if she just came to Feeny and be like, listen, I love you. I love what you've done for me. I love our friendship. I love our relationship, but it's not serving me anymore. And I can't do this anymore.
Mhm.
So you don't have to change who you are for me. And I don't want to compromise who I am for you. I think to see a healthy version of what you would call loss would be really helpful. I'm thinking for like a young audience who is scared to make these
Yeah.
decisions because it's very similar. Like I'm losing so much, but the alternative, like think about what you're gaining, the agency that you're gaining, the confidence that you're gaining in being able to make these decisions, the strength to stand up for yourself and to speak. There's so many things on the other side of making hard decisions. And I mean, it was nice to be in Alice's head, to hear her thinking about it, having these conversations. But what happens a lot with YA, people don't really stick through. The stakes aren't as high. It's like
Mhm.
they'll tease you and they'll bring it up. But I really just wanted to see her like make that decision, cut the cord, and be like, we done, but we don't have to
Yeah.
hate each other. It doesn't have to be like now we're fighting in the street.
Now
We
we're
didn't have
fighting in the street.
it didn't
No.
have to be like
Yeah.
that.
I at least would have liked like a conversation where there was change, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Because they
Yeah.
basically just said they were both mean and then like continued on talking.
Which
Instead
wasn't
of
true.
like,
I don't like those apologies. It's like, oh, we're both wrong. Because sometimes we're not both wrong. Sometimes you're
yeah, like
wrong.
I'm allowed to go have a friend. And if you ditch me at a party, I'm allowed to leave. Like,
What am I supposed
what
to
is
apologize for?
you? I'm literally gonna wait till you're done fornicating with your man. No,
That's
that's just like,
fornicating at a
yeah,
Halloween party.
yeah.
Not
I'm not
this.
sticking around, man. Nah,
Not when there's
no,
a cute ass
no.
man trying to take me out. Are you crazy? I'm out of here. I'm gone.
Even without the cute ass guy, if you left
Yeah, I
me
was
and
going
you know
regardless.
I'm not having, I'm bye. I'm going back home
And
to
she
read
was
my
and
book.
she was being sexually assaulted. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not staying here. And even that I would have brought that up. I'm like, girl, you gonna sit here and be upset with me for leaving? And I literally was getting I almost got sexually assaulted at this party. That's what
Because
happened
you
because you
left
left me by
me.
myself.
Yeah.
By
Mhm,
myself. Right, girl,
mhm.
no. Me and Feeny would have had to see me. We would have had to have a conversation because I don't like that. It was so frustrating. And even though, like you mentioned before, Alice did realize that she was being a little bit selfish, I
Mhm.
don't like the that like somebody has to take all of this blame that doesn't belong to them just because so
Yeah.
many people have issues with them. If you don't know, you can literally be an amazing person and people can still hate you.
Yep.
Period. So if you base who
Mhm.
you are solely on the opinions of other people, you'll never be happy. You'll never be
Mhm.
satisfied. You'll never be okay. You're constantly trying to find ways to shift and change yourself because it's not who you are. You're trying to like please somebody else. I didn't think she was the most selfish person in the world. I mean,
Oh.
she was
She was only
selfish as other
selfish because she was
things
figuring
that I
herself
know.
out.
Yeah, I think she was
Mhm.
focused on herself. And if you're
Mhm.
not, people aren't used to you having those boundaries, or if people are used to having more access to you, that can be very scary for you to be
Mhm.
choosing yourself. And of course, what can they do? They can shame you by calling you selfish. But I don't think she was the most selfish person in the world. I think she apologized a lot more than she had to. Um, I didn't think, yeah, I didn't think she was that bad. But oh, I was just thinking about the end of the book. They needed to
Mhm.
flesh out what was going on with her and Takumi, because the fact that they just randomly were like, she literally was asking him, so how do you feel in regarding like the no sex thingy? Like, how does that work? He's like, yeah, we'll figure that out. Will we? Will we really?
That's one of my cons is like, okay, so I like that the idea of this book is to kind of give hope and understanding to asexual people. Because
Right.
I feel like there is a lot of despair in the sense of like, oh, I'm not going to find a partner. And in the book,
Mm-hmm.
she mentions that a lot of people, and I find that a lot of people who are ace, what they do is they'll have a partner who will also have another partner. So that way they're
Mm-hmm.
satisfied. And like, I'm like her in the book where it's like, I could not share. That's just weird. I
Mm.
don't, that's just like,
That's
mm,
so interesting that that actually happens often. That's very interesting. I mean, people
that
are in polyamorous relationships right now. Like that is way more
exactly.
common, but I'm still just like,
Hmm.
whoa, whoa.
Yeah, that's for some people and that's not for others. But then it's like, okay, how are we gonna make this work? Because you will have needs, and I think it kind of was glossed over. Because if you really do try and have a
Yeah.
relationship with someone who has a physical need, like especially for dudes, because if this was a girl, like or, no, I guess it's kind of the same. Where it's like they have a need, no matter who
Yeah.
they are.
It's like literally next to like when you think about like drinking water, pooping, peeing, like and like getting horny. Like it is like for a lot of people, it
It's
is
and
just it's on that spectrum of just like a need, a physical like need, an itch that you need to scratch.
mhm.
And like we can't just gloss over that because y'all are cute and y'all want to make out in this bookstore, even though that was a really cute scene. Like literally it was like they were kissing and then they stopped. And it's like she's like, yeah, but what about? He's like, no, no, no. And I'm like, no, but go back. What about?
Let's
Like,
talk about it.
what?
Yeah, so it was sweet and it was hopeful, but I do think it could be a little misleading to people who are ace that relationships they're gonna find are gonna be that people would maybe accept them and be like, I'll change for you. Because it's kind of what she that will have to end up happening is that he's going to have to bend to her if like she's a hard no. But I think it kind of allude to them being like open to doing like figuring it out together. At least that's like the end of the story. We're like, okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna talk, we're gonna communicate. But it was just super like overly hopeful in my opinion, which is like I
Yeah.
get it, super
To
cute.
leave it to the last page, I was like, yeah, this is a bit too much. This is a bit too hopeful.
Let's see. Yeah, main con because I feel like one of the main questions of the book and it's just left unanswered. Yeah, like how are
Absolutely.
you supposed to have a relationship with someone who has a completely different need and drive than you? And it's like, let's talk about love. It's like we really didn't talk about it. They're just gonna, oh, we're gonna get into that.
Not let's talk about love, and we didn't talk about love. And we didn't talk about love, girl. Oh my god.
Yeah, yeah. And it would
That's
have, I think
crazy.
it would have been cool if maybe he like found out that he was kind of on the spectrum of like, oh, well, maybe that's not a need. Cause he kind of talked about at the end desire and understanding her desire. And he's like, well, that physical stuff doesn't mean much to me as long as you desire me. And it's like, okay, maybe you
Right.
don't desire me physically, you desire me in different ways. So he was
Hmm.
getting to it that like maybe he doesn't need that but like that could have been way more than one comment he made. Like
Yeah,
I don't know.
it could have been. I think even that moment in the car when he first like or she first said that she had feelings for him. First of all, I don't even understand why that was so surprising. I was like, yeah, she was sitting on your lap. Y'all were cuddling in front of the fire in a cabin. Okay. But it was that moment, I think it could have been the start of that conversation of
Yeah.
saying like some of those things and then maybe letting her go register and sit with them. But of course she got overly emotional and she ran. So,
Hmm.
but I guess she was triggered. But I think that could have been the start if the book was going to end up how it was. If we was going to end here, we could have had that conversation.
Yeah, I read a romance book with like a demisexual ace character who
Mm,
like occasionally liked to do things, and that book handled it in a way where it's like like they were talking throughout the whole book of how do you feel? What do you want? I'd like this.
yeah,
What do you want? So I kind of
constantly
feel like
checking in.
exactly. So I feel like that could have been a kind of bridge to helping people understand that if this book is to make people feel seen and figure out give them a way to like help them out of these situations, it's like, okay,
Mm,
what are some tools that people who are ace can use? And it's
yeah,
like, well, communication being one of them, which is kind of talked about but not directed at, like, okay,
yeah,
well, if we're sitting together and she mentions wanting to kiss him, it's like, okay, you got to let him know because he won't
yeah.
know, things like
That
that.
could also
So
be
it's just,
super confusing for him not being ace because I think it also could be something that breeds frustration for each other because you're coming from one point of view and you're coming from another point of view, and both of you are just being 1,000% who you are, but it's still not coming across properly. So, like, let's just say you're sitting there talking about, yeah, I want to kiss you, Takumi, and he's just like, but to me, that means something different. To me, that's going to make me sexually aroused, and then I'm whatever. Like, you never know. Definitely, I need to have those
mm-hmm.
conversations. Let's not be too idealistic, and also don't. I mean, even though I can't tell people when to come out, but I can just say for relationships, it's just always better to be 1,000% um, open in regards to communication once you establish that you want to be with them. If you don't know what the fuck is going on, nobody really expects you. That's your business. Like,
But
it don't even have to
if
come
you don't
up.
know, yeah, if you don't know and you want to have relationships still, I feel like you kind of have to pick one over the other. You have to
Mm,
explore yourself and be honest with people telling you that you're exploring and you're not sure, or you just need to work on yourself because it's like
yeah,
it gets really muddy very quickly.
messy as hell.
Mhm. Yeah. Let's see, especially because sexual incompatibility, if you want to call it that, with his last girlfriend. Okay, right? Like if she is out there like being with other men, clearly well, I don't know. There might have been a sexual incompatibility, or she might have
Oh wait,
just
is she talking
been
about the girlfriend? I
that
think you're talking about.
girlfriend,
I think you're talking about
Takumi.
Alice's girlfriend. That sexual incompatibility.
Oh, I
Yeah,
thought
I
she was
think that
talking
makes a
about
lot more sense.
Takumi's girlfriend. That makes more sense. Okay, wait. Now I have to reread this. With her last girlfriend. It literally
Yeah,
says her last girlfriend. I just read that wrong.
it's okay, girl.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, that makes total sense because yeah, it's a huge part, and I think that's why she going into this next relationship really wanted to be clear. And I feel like
Mm,
when you're ace, you start to learn that I have to be very upfront because most people have a assumption that it's not, but that like you can't assume for everybody that everyone's
yeah,
the same. That makes sense.
I
Mhm,
definitely
mhm.
agree.
Yes, I like how I made coffee, like heated up coffee, and literally haven't had a sip of
I'm
it, so it's
screaming.
probably cold now. Oh my god.
I'm
Um,
screaming.
Yeah. I also, in the comments, if you guys rated or finished the book, I'd love to know what you rated it. I think I'm still gonna
Yes.
do a 4 star, even though it kind of sounds like we've been talking a lot about what doesn't work. I I think it's still so nice to see it on the page
Yeah.
that someone's figuring themselves out and they're like striving to be better, even though she could eventually maybe leave those friendships and
Yeah.
eventually become more independent. I
Yeah.
think at least she was trying. The whole book she was trying. And I'm like,
The
yes,
conversations are
girl.
important regardless. Like,
Hmm.
they are important. They need to be like followed up by action, but I still do think like the conversations themselves are still important.
Yes. And I think for a younger audience, it's cool to even implant those ideas of I don't have to follow my parents and I
Yeah.
like don't have to accept my friend being mean to me. I'm not gonna talk to her until we're right and we set things straight. So that makes sense. Like I still thought, and also like most of my the whole 4 stars is mostly because I really just love the two of them together, spending
Yeah. Oh
time
yeah. There were
together.
there were a cute couple.
They were a really cute couple, and I really appreciated seeing that romantic relationship blossom, and like
Yes.
then there was no like meanness because with
Yeah.
Margaret, with her being like you need to see a doctor, I'm like I feel like that would be a common thing for most people. It's like you broke, like you need to go fix that. It's like excuse me, miss,
Oh
aren't you
my
broke?
god. No, literally. I think my rating now after discussing it is I think I would give it a 4, like I said, because it makes sense if you think about it from a YA perspective. I think that in that like genre, I think it performs well. And I
Mhm.
think that it would be way more impactful. And a lot of a lot of things that we're talking about is because we're older, and that's just
Yeah.
our experiences. But I think regardless, it's still just great to see a black girl being desired, being loved, being open about wanting to be loved. I think regardless, I think, of how you identify, that's something we all can relate to, just because we're not seen as desirable, period. So
Yeah. Or desirable, and I liked how this book put into place for both characters,
yeah,
Takumi and her, that like a lot of people will desire someone who is different just because they're different. Like
yep,
there was a girl who called him Appa because that's like a Korean
right.
endearment term,
He's
and he's
not
like,
even
I'm
Korean.
Japanese, please don't call me that. So it's very interesting. So yeah, I really like how they mentioned that, but it also wasn't like the focus. They were still
Hmm.
able to just focus on loving each other and like that I like you for who you are and
Yeah,
not because you have beautiful hair or like whatever like
yeah,
weird fascinations that some of the other people in the book had. So I
yeah,
really enjoyed that. I was like, it's pure love, like in the sense of like I really like the way that you talk to me and that you listen to me. And I'm like, oh,
yep. Yeah, the
precious.
way you make me feel, the way you take care of me. And I think overall, if there was anything I would take away from the book, I think I like that it allows you to look at things outside of just a sexual perspective of what your relationship, what your bond with somebody is like. Especially just getting to know somebody, because so many people, they do that first, which is their business, but it can lead to issues in regards to, okay, but who are you? And I think we really got to see them discover who they were, and really to look
Mm-hmm.
at those signs of like who they were together. And I love them. Yeah, I love Takumi and Alice together. They were really cute.
They were so cute. Oh my gosh. And then you gave it 4.5 stars because it felt so real. Yes. And I just adored the non sexual intimacy. Yes.
Yeah.
I also feel like that's something that YA could definitely explore more because it's, yeah, like you can have non sexual intimacy and still have a really good relationship. Also, it's really odd to me that we like promote stories for young adults. So, like, 16 and it's like they're talking about having sex or wanting to have sex all the time and
It's
it's
so unrealistic in regards to not even just having sex, but they make you out here thinking that 16-year-olds are having like porn star sex, and it's like
yes
that is
it's like you don't
not
even get that till you're like years
that's
deep
not
in a
even
relationship that has a lot of good communication.
not at 16, 17 on prom night. That's not how that go down. Who told you that? Y'all gonna be set up. Don't
Mm.
listen to these shows. Don't
Don't
do
listen
it.
to them. Don't listen to them. I also really like that prom was mentioned in the book about how it didn't live up to standards. I'm like, yes, I have never heard anybody walk
Yep.
away going, prom was perfect. And
Yep.
movies make prom to be such a big thing. And it's like, no, it's just a
Nope.
random night where either you get messy or you're alone and bored. If you're me, you're at a table and you're with people you don't want to be with because you didn't like assign seating and you're like,
That was me.
okay,
That was
good. That's
me.
like,
Me and my boyfriend were sitting there like, we left prom.
mm,
We left prom. We showed up at prom late, like an hour late. Took really nice pictures. Did a dance, and then we left early. We were like echo.
good.
Like it was just like,
Yeah,
yeah.
fine. I also danced. I danced trying to be cute. No. And then I
You feel
left
me?
and I ended up playing card games with the dude till like 4 a.m. and we got
I love
McDonald's.
that.
That was my prom night. I really enjoyed that aspect. I was like, we're
Yeah,
tight. We're cool friends. It's like, no, it's prom in high school is mostly about like some of the relationships you meet, but just also just experiencing new things. It
yeah,
doesn't always have to be like the one and my bestest friend ever. It's
yeah.
like you can just have relationships. It's
Some
okay.
people are
And
just
then
there for a season, especially when you think about high school. It's not forever. So just
yeah.
be there, be in the moment, and try to let it be. If you know that things probably aren't going to last forever, just let them be the most beautiful that they can be and healthy. That's all you can ask for.
Yeah, 100%. Mm, yeah, it's raining. Definitely gonna go to sleep first. Aw, thanks for the love.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for everyone who's joining in. We have been talking for more than an hour. Is there anything
Yeah.
else? I think I've covered everything I want. The crazy friend, the crazy
Yes.
family, but also the pure, like, cute romance that I love. And
Yeah.
I, like, would have loved to see more of them actually communicating, but I still love to see it on the page.
Yeah. I think I covered everything. I love them as well.
Mm.
And even though we talked a lot about the things that could have been expanded upon, I think that's just because of probably like our range of reading taste and us being older and experiencing these things. Not because there's anything wrong with the book.
Exactly, exactly. And this is just one book. It's like now it's like let's keep it going. Let's open up
Yeah.
other books. It's like does a character have to be ace to have like a certain type of relationship where it's like maybe
Yeah.
I don't want intimacy first, like demisexual in the sense
Yeah.
of like I want to get to know you first and like
Yeah.
not thinking of that as being weird, being the new
Yeah.
norm.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. Well,
I
if
love
anyone
this.
has any more comments, let us know before we hop out. But yeah, I really and thank you so much for joining. You have been so
Thanks for
great.
having me. This was so
Yes,
fun.
it is.
I'm happy I read the book.
That's good. I was so scared because when you said, "Oh, I've heard bad things," I literally had not heard any bad things. So I was like, "Crap." Maybe
No,
it's
but I
just
was
the people
happy.
I listen to. Okay, good,
I
good.
was happy. Yeah, this has
That's
been
awesome. That's
so
awesome.
fun. I love this. And it's also helped me get through fasting. I now break
Good.
fast in like 30 minutes. So
30
it's
minutes?
great.
Good, good. So what you need to do is you need to have a FaceTime date with somebody every day to
Literally.
get you through.
No, literally.
Mhm. Mhm.
Call me, beat me if you want
Yeah.
to reach me.
Yes! Oh, thank you so much.
Thank
Yay, and you actually read it
you.
this time. You the best. You the best. I'm also
Yes,
glad you enjoyed it because I know she rated it a 4.5, so that's great. I'm so happy you liked it.
I love
Okay.
this.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I will end the live show here. I will have a poll for next month's book picks. They're going to be middle grade. I don't
Ooh.
remember the titles off my head, but I'm trying to find some fun. Like I think the Jumbies is one. I think that's one I've been meaning to read for a while, so it's going to be on the
Mm.
vote. Fun, middle grade, black magic. It's going to be great.
Yay.
So
That sounds
I
so
hope to see you
great.
guys again next month. Thank you again for joining. I will have our channel linked down below. I don't know if I did that already, but I will definitely do that
Thanks for
right now.
having me. If you want to see
Thank
more of
you.
me, follow me at Sincerely Tahiri. I talk about books. I have a lot of reading vlogs coming up. And I also have my own book club, the Iqra Trials, where I read a different Muslim book every month. So yeah.
Yes, and you have a Twitter for that, right?
Yes, at the
Or
Iqra Trials. Yes.
yes. So make sure follow it below. I will definitely link her stuff below so you can follow her on Twitter and her Instagram is so popping, guys. It's like inspiration to the max. Yes. So I hope to see you guys again next month, and thanks again for joining. Bye.
Bye.